Why do older women fall for younger men? The question has hovered in whispers and judgment for decades. And yet, it's happening everywhere. You see them at cafes, at art galleries, at airports. A woman in her 40s or 50s, radiant, self-assured, with a man a decade or two younger by her side. She isn't confused. She isn't desperate. She's simply alive in a way she hasn't been for years. Love, after all, doesn't follow calendars. It follows energy. And energy is what younger men bring in abundance. For many women, attraction to younger men doesn't begin with rebellion. It begins with revival. It's not that she wants to be young again. It's that she wants to feel again. Younger men remind her what it's like to laugh without calculation, to be spontaneous, to feel seen without performance. They pull her out of the routines that once made her feel safe but now make her feel numb. An older woman knows who she is. That's her greatest advantage. She's no longer chasing validation or trying to please anyone. She's done bending herself into someone else's expectations. So when a younger man looks at her with admiration, not pity, something awakens inside her. It's not vanity, it's recognition. A reminder that her spirit, her wit, her sensuality, her fire, none of it has an expiration date. Younger men often bring what older men have forgotten: curiosity. They ask questions instead of assuming they know everything. They listen not to respond but to understand. They look at her not as a mother figure or a mentor, but as a woman. And that simple difference changes everything. There's something magnetic about a man who's still full of wonder, who hasn't grown cynical, who's still discovering life, who's unafraid to be inspired. That energy is contagious. When he's around, she doesn't feel like she's dating down. She feels like she's rising up into her own aliveness again. She remembers the thrill of adventure, the sweetness of risk, the electricity of possibility. He may be younger in years, but he's not beneath her. He's beside her, bringing out the part of her that the world told her to bury. Older women aren't choosing younger men out of immaturity or fantasy. They're choosing connection that feels real. A man who's too young to be jaded, too bold to play games, too honest to hide behind pride. And maybe, just maybe, she likes the shock it causes, the sideways glances, the quiet gossip, the way society can't quite comprehend that love could exist beyond its categories. Because every time she walks into a room with him, she isn't just breaking a rule. She's rewriting one. She's not chasing youth. She's embodying it. She's not afraid of age. She's transcending it. Because for the first time in years, she isn't looking for safety. She's looking for spark. And the younger man beside her? He's not rescuing her from loneliness. He's reminding her that she never lost her fire. She just needed someone unafraid to touch it. For many older women, attraction to a younger man isn't just about desire. It's about awakening. After years of carrying responsibilities, raising children, managing careers, and often prioritizing everyone else's needs over her own, she rediscovers something she thought was lost: the thrill of being seen. Not for her experience, not for her maturity, not for her achievements, but simply for her presence. When a younger man looks at her, he doesn't see a resume of past relationships or a list of sacrifices. He sees a woman powerful, complex, magnetic. He doesn't label her as too much, too wise, or too intimidating. To him, her depth is fascinating. Her calm is alluring. Her confidence is intoxicating. And that makes her feel something she hasn't felt in years: desirable. Younger men have a different kind of attention. They're not weighed down by comparison or cynicism. They don't carry the silent bitterness that time sometimes carves into older hearts. Their curiosity is fresh, their passion unfiltered, their affection unguarded. And that emotional openness allows her to drop her armor. For once, she doesn't need to control the story. She can simply feel it. He tells her she's beautiful, and she doesn't dismiss it as flattery. Because he says it with the kind of wonder that only someone uncorrupted by expectation can express. He touches her, not as someone collecting affection, but as someone discovering it. With him, she doesn't feel like she's teaching. She feels like she's experiencing. There's also an emotional balance that few talk about. A younger man often brings softness where life has made her rigid. His humor lightens her seriousness. His spontaneity shakes up her routines. His risk-taking pulls her out of comfort zones she didn't even realize had become cages. And in turn, her composure steadies his chaos. Her wisdom gives shape to his energy. Together, they create a chemistry that feels both grounding and explosive, like a storm that somehow feels safe. And deep down, it's not about rebellion against age. It's about liberation from stagnation. Older women fall for younger men because they represent what time tried to take. Not youth itself, but freedom. The freedom to feel again, to laugh too loud, to love too honestly, to live without apology. When she's with him, she doesn't measure time. She forgets it. And that, in itself, is a kind of immortality. Because for the first time in a long time, she's not defined by her years. She's defined by her energy. And he, young, unafraid, wild in his optimism, becomes the mirror that reminds her. She never needed to be younger. She just needed to be awake. When an older woman falls for a younger man, the world rarely claps. It whispers. It speculates. It assumes she's chasing youth, attention, or validation. But the truth is more nuanced, more intimate, and infinitely more human. Because while the world loves to talk about love, it still struggles to accept love that doesn't fit its rules. She feels the glances when they walk into a restaurant, the lifted eyebrows from other women, the forced smiles from men who think they understand. She's heard the quiet comments, midlife crisis, cradle robber. He just wants her money. They say these things because they can't fathom that an older woman could be chosen for something deeper than convenience. They can't believe she's wanted not despite her years, but because of them. What they don't see is what happens when the doors close, when the noise fades, when it's just the two of them, her with the calm certainty of a woman who has lived, and him with the burning curiosity of a man who still believes. He looks at her not through the lens of time but through the lens of presence. And in that look, something inside her shifts. The years of comparison to younger women, to her past self, to society's impossible ideal begin to dissolve. Because in his eyes, she's not older. She's real. Older women aren't blind to age. They're simply no longer enslaved by it. She knows she has wrinkles, that her laughter lines have stories behind them. But to him, those lines are maps, evidence that she's survived, grown, and felt. To a younger man who's still learning the language of emotion, that kind of maturity isn't intimidating. It's mesmerizing. What draws him isn't her age but her frequency. Her presence carries a vibration that younger women often haven't yet developed. A mix of grace and gravity, serenity and intensity. She doesn't play games because she's done wasting time. She doesn't chase validation because she already knows her worth. She doesn't try to impress him because she understands something he's only beginning to learn. That true attraction has nothing to prove. There's also an honesty in their connection that's hard to find elsewhere. She's not pretending to be perfect. He's not pretending to be experienced. They meet in a place where masks fall away. She tells him what she feels, what she needs, what she fears. And he listens, not as a student trying to pass a test, but as a man genuinely curious about her truth. Together, they dismantle the myth that relationships have to fit a template. He gives her energy. She gives him direction. He brings curiosity. She brings clarity. He helps her loosen control. She teaches him how to hold it. What emerges isn't an age gap. It's a balance. But balance doesn't mean it's easy. They face judgment not just from strangers but from themselves. Late at night, she sometimes wonders, am I being foolish? And he wonders, will she get tired of me? But every time doubt creeps in, reality returns. The way he laughs when she teases him, the way she softens when he listens, the way the world makes sense only when they're together. Society likes to pretend love has a formula. Two people of similar age, similar goals, similar timelines. But the heart doesn't care about formulas. The heart recognizes resonance. And when two souls vibrate on the same frequency, years become irrelevant. Older women who choose younger men aren't making statements, they're making choices. Choices to follow emotion over expectation. Connection over conformity. truth over tradition, because sometimes love doesn't come to remind you who you were. It comes to remind you who you still are. And maybe that's what terrifies the world the most, that a woman who has already lived enough to know better can still dare to feel everything again. At some point, something extraordinary happens in these relationships. The novelty fades, but the depth begins. What once looked like an experiment becomes a mirror. What others called a phase becomes a bond. Because when an older woman and a younger man stay long enough to understand each other beyond the surface, they discover a truth most people spend lifetimes avoiding. Love isn't about similarity, it's about polarity. She brings the calm of someone who's seen life's storms and survived. He brings the fire of someone still unafraid to run toward the lightning. Together, they don't cancel each other out, they complete the current. In him, she finds what time had dulled, the rawness, the hunger, the willingness to jump into life headfirst. His energy cracks open the walls she built to protect herself. Around him, she laughs louder, lives freer, loves braver. And in her, he finds what youth alone cannot give: grounding, wisdom, quiet confidence. Her steadiness becomes his compass. Her voice becomes the calm between his impulses. Her gaze, the one that doesn't demand, doesn't question, just sees, teaches him what true acceptance feels like. People think age gap love is about what one side gives the other, but it's not. It's about what both remember together. He reminds her how to live without fear. She reminds him how to live with purpose. He brings chaos. She brings meaning. And somewhere between his uncertainty and her assurance, they meet in perfect equilibrium. Not as teacher and student, but as two souls who met at the right vibration, just in different seasons of life. There's a particular beauty in the way they love. There are no illusions of forever youth, no pretenses of perfection. She knows that time will move forward. He knows that life will test them. But for now, they choose to exist in the space between judgment and joy, a space the world rarely understands, yet secretly envies. Because what they've built isn't fantasy. It's freedom. Freedom from timelines. Freedom from opinions. Freedom from what love is supposed to look like. And that's why it lasts, not because it fits, but because it flows. When she wakes beside him, she doesn't see a younger man. She sees someone who brings out her vitality, her playfulness, her inner fire, the parts of herself she thought she'd lost. When he looks at her, he doesn't see an older woman. He sees the warmth that steadies his restlessness, the mind that challenges him, the soul that refuses to settle for the shallow. It's not about her needing to feel young. It's about her remembering that life never stopped being beautiful. It's not about him needing a guide. It's about him realizing that depth can be the most intoxicating form of youth. Their love isn't rebellion, it's recognition. A recognition that age doesn't define connection. That chemistry isn't bound by calendars. That when two hearts meet with honesty, everything else, wrinkles, years, fears, simply fades into background noise. And maybe that's the quiet secret older women and younger men share. They're not chasing time, they're escaping it. Not trying to prove something, but to feel something that's real, unfiltered, alive. In the end, it's not an older woman and a younger man. It's simply two people who remembered how to live.